I'm joined this week by Buddila Wiejesekera. So Buddila has a degree in mechanical engineering from Wolverhampton University, and then he's got a master's in renewable and sustainable energy from Northumbria University, and is currently a research fellow for Engineering for Change. Hi Buddila, welcome to STEM with Mr. N.
Hello, Stuart. Thank you for the invitation.
Buddila, could you tell us a bit about Engineering for Change and your current role with them?
So the organization Engineering for Change is an organization which is based in the United States of America. So I currently work as a research fellow on a research collaboration project, which is between E4C, which is Engineering for Change, and the organization known as NRE, which is the National Renewable Energy Laboratories. The project is focused on wave energy powered water desalination systems. So the goal of the aim, or rather the goal of E4C, is to develop the young engineering workforce to develop sustainable solutions that can be used by the underserved communities to meet their own needs, energy, health, ICT, and sanitation, etc. Because there are a lot of places in the world without the access to clean water, clean energy, clean sanitation, improper ICT infrastructures, including internet and schooling, computing, etc. So they are the organization that will promote and develop those engineers to develop sustainable solutions to those kind of rural communities across the world.
That sounds like a very worthwhile company and trying to help, developing countries come up with their own sustainable and renewable energy. It's a really sort of ambitious goal that the company seems to have. So you're quite early on in your STEM journey, looking at when you got your qualifications. What first got you interested in STEM and led to you following engineering as your path?
So to start off my career journey, I wanted to become a pilot when I was small. Unfortunately, after several, as I grew up, did my exams, A-levels, GCSEs, I realized that my interest then turned towards engineering. That's how I became an engineer ultimately. Because there's a connect, as I believe, because piloting is definitely also a very good job. But what happened was I then felt that I am more curious about on how things work. So that's the main turning point, I think, that made me realize that I need to go on and do engineering, because that curiosity helped me understand engineering is all about creative thinking out of the box, see something and then see, oh, how does that work? Can't that work like this? Finding alternative solutions or alternative way on how a system functions. So that's how I ended up becoming being an engineer.
It's an interesting route, having first been wanting to be a pilot and then, developing your interest further to find out that engineering was really the route for you. Did you have any STEM role models, any engineering role models when you were thinking about what it was you wanted to do?
Yes, of course, because my father is also an engineer. So I think the biggest role model of my career life would be him. So he is an engineer, and so that made me think, why not? I also can become an engineer like him. So yeah.
It's good when you've got a role model right in the house as well, and somebody that can help you with your studies as well if you need it.
Definitely.
So obviously now you're working in the renewable and sustainable energy sector. How much has what's been going on with climate change and the research into how humans are affecting climate change, how much has that influenced what you have decided to study and pursue just now within your engineering career?
Yeah, because climate change is real, we see, especially within this side of the world, in the Southeast Asian region, there are a lot of floodings, and there are, you can see there's a, lot of variations in the weather patterns in different countries. You expect rain for some season, then it gets like more sun, vice versa. When we expect the sun, then it rains. So these things are real, because climate change is a very catastrophic event that is happening. So we need to focus on reducing the use of fossil fuel to generate the ever rising energy demands because of the rising population. So that is what turned me on to this side of engineering, especially. That's the key thing that played in me choosing renewable and sustainable energy technologies for my master's degree.
Climate change is going to be more of an issue for the youth of today than it is for the adults today, as it takes place over a prolonged period of time. Have you got any insight or advice for what small changes children and young people could make in their own lives, which collectively, if they all made these small changes, would make a big impact on what is happening with climate change?
Of course, there is, because we can just start just right from our houses, our homes. Like when we encourage the small children, from their tender age, or when they are even little as 5 years old. So what we can do is teach them to switch off unnecessary lights. Let's say when they leave a room, especially their room or the kitchen or whatever, and also to switch off the TV when they have finished watching and they try to go somewhere else. So we can encourage them, inspire them. We should be a role model to them ourselves. We have to show them this is the correct way to do this, and switching off the light will play a big part, even though it's not we cannot see it physically. There will be a part, a big part towards the environment, especially. So those things we have to teach them through our homes, as well as in school as well. When they grow up, the teachers can encourage them, teach them more about the science behind the climate change activities, what is really happening. So what we do to prevent it, to reduce the global greenhouse gas emissions, for example. So the science can be taught at school, whereas the practical side, the small things, the parents can teach them and inspire them to do within their own homes.
Thank you. That was a good insight about the little things like turning off taps and turning off lights that people can do. So you seem very enthusiastic about what it is you do, both just as an engineer, but also on the climate change and renewable and sustainable energy side of things. So since you're doing that just now as a role, what is your favourite thing about your role researching these clean renewable energies?
Yeah, so up until now, I have engaged in different type of projects, engineering projects that based on let's say from energy efficiencies to wind projects, and then now dealing with the wave energy project. So what makes me interesting is that I have got a chance to explore a wider range of topics concerned with sustainability, especially, and almost to renewable energy sources, wind and wave energy. So I'm hoping to work on solar projects as well if I get a chance in the future as well. So those experience have led me made me more interested, starting off with energy efficiency projects has gave me that idea, we need to embrace renewable energy technologies, not just energy efficiency, but also to implement greener technologies for for those industrial sectors as well. They should also try to implement more projects to use solar or wind or hybrid energy systems to carry out their day-to-day production or manufacturing activities. So that's what have led me up here in terms of renewable and sustainable technologies.
It's very interesting. Has there been any sort of transfer from what you've learned and your knowledge about renewable and sustainable energy, any transfer of that knowledge into applications in the home, like in your own home? Have you done anything or thinking of anything for enhancing the energy use at your own home?
Yeah, actually I do, because for my master's, I completed a project focusing on wind energy. So what I did was I developed a 3D model using a commercial available engineering software, which is also known as SolidWorks, which is famous within the engineering sector, especially within the mechanical engineering sector. So I used it to develop a microscale wind capturing system, or rather a wind energy system that has the ability to harness wind from multiple directions, just similar to a vertical axis wind turbine, the one that is not very common as the horizontal one you can see onshore as well as offshore. So it has the ability to harness wind from many directions, like 4 directions, and then it will go through a funnel section, a ducted one. It's like an enclosed system towards the fan, and that will rotate the fan, which will ultimately generate the required electricity. Of course, it depends on the location, because as we all know, renewable energy depends on the location as well, because weather patterns play a important role, because not every day we get wind, no sun, no rain. So we have to be considerate of that factor as well. But I think my system will be more efficient because it has the ability to harness from multiple directions, right? So even the little wind that flows will be able to direct that towards the fan and generate some energy, to a certain extent, depends, depending how much wind that particular location gets. So that's my plan, and I'm hoping to expand on it as as I get the chance and the opportunity to get access to the resources that I need to complete it to a full scale.
Well, it's great to hear, though, that we've got a young engineer out there looking at how they can enhance and improve what is available just now for renewable energy. It's a continually growing sector as people become more and more aware about climate change and energy use. And I know you're fairly new into it, but have there been any noticeable changes in the renewable sector in the short time you've been in it? And where do you see the renewable sector going in the future? What sort of enhancements do you see coming in the near future?
Yeah, so it is expected that renewable energy, electricity, that means the energy generated by renewable sources, will grow up to 50% maybe in another 20 to 30 years time, or maybe let's say 10 to 30 years time, because of the 2030 net zero target goals according to the Paris Agreement. So what I can see is UK and the other European countries is at the forefront, leading the way, paving the path for the globe to become more sustainable. A lot of offshore projects are coming within the UK as well as in other countries such as Denmark, Germany, France, also Belgium as well. UK is special because it's an island sort of a country within the European region, and you have a lot of potential for offshore wind turbines. So the world's largest turbine manufactured by GE is also used for the current project that is ongoing within the Teesside, the northeast shore. So that's the particular interested area when I consider offshore wind turbine system, because the largest project is currently going on there, which is also known as the Dogger Brand project. So it's nice to see all these things coming up, because it shows how concerned the government of those countries are concerned about the environment in terms of the future term goals. Because it's like we have to consider about the future in the long run, not in the short term. We can get energy from fossil fuel as we like. It's more reliable, but in terms of the future, in terms of our future generations, for them to be, to live in their own life without any hassles or any, hazardous situations caused by natural stuff due to climate change. So we need to think about the future in the long term, and implement more and more projects, not just within the European continent, but globally. So as I said, there will be a growth definitely in the future. Not 100%, but in another 20 years, I anticipate more than 70% of the global energy demands will be supplied using renewable energy sources, including wind, solar, wave, tidal, also hybrid energy systems.
And that makes a good link to what you were saying earlier about how young people and children just now can make small changes, but to see where the industry is going and how you anticipate it growing, there's scope there for the young engineers out there as well to come through and be part of that. So going from the small changes just now of being aware and turning off lights to the activists out there, the likes of Greta Thunberg, but you can progress that on to being an engineer and being the driver of that change, as obviously you're doing with engineering for change. So it looks like there's plenty of scope for the future for young engineers to come through.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for young people out there who are interested in STEM? They've maybe done activities and things in the classroom and they've got that enthusiasm, but they don't know what to do with it or where to go with it. If you get any advice for young people in that situation?
Yeah, of course. What my advice would be is for them to, like, for the parents and the teachers, for them to explore what they like the most, and also to inculcate knowledge within environmental sustainability and climate change to the school curriculum, as well as, when it comes to the parents, they can encourage them to watch more educational programs that, relates to climate change and environmental sustainability. Because that's how I became interested when I was small. Like, even though I wanted to become a pilot, I used to watch a lot of, discovery programs that made me think, oh, engineering is definitely interesting, So yeah, so that's my advice. And always read, like, teachers can also, like, parents also can encourage them to read more about STEM subjects, sustainability. I know sustainability is a bit complicated in a sense because it's a wider, not like wider sector. It's a wide sector, It applies to, politics, engineering, scientists, governance. It's a combination of all those, career sectors, not just engineers, but we need the proper policymakers to embrace that particular set of technologies that will, prevent the crisis of climate change. So that's my advice for the younger generation.
Okay, thank you very much. A lot of great advice in there about reading and watching programs, speaking to teachers, speaking to parents, all the things that myself as an educator would encourage pupils to do as well. I'm going to make this the final question for our interview. Where do you anticipate yourself being in your career in 10 years? What would you like to be doing or working on in that time?
So my main interest is to do more research and to contribute towards the growth of the renewable energy sources in terms of wind, solar, hybrid, wave, you name it, anything.
So that's really interesting there, Buddila, hearing that you want to be leading the sort of research and development in renewable and sustainable energy as you progress in your career. So here we've got a great young engineer to look out for in the future as Buddila progresses through his career. Buddila, thank you very much for joining us. I found it really interesting and inspiring for the young people out there, and hopefully they did as well. So thank you for giving up your time to speak to us today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for inviting me.